Okay, so head coach, let's go down the list here. Your favorite job. If you're a head coach candidate, you have your pick of the litter,
I would like to live in Chicago. It's as much about the city as it is the situation.
Put your football
for me.
hat on for a moment. But by the way, I think Justin Fields could be better than any of them. I'll say that again. I think Justin Fields is going to be the best one.
Am I coaching in Soldier Field or Arlington Heights?
You're coaching in Soldier Field.
Okay, Chicago. I like the
You're
Chicago
living in Lake
job.
Forest, though.
Yes.
Very nice.
Oh, for sure.
Lincoln Park.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would look at Denver. I think great fan base,
I'm with you.
cool place to live, and kind of a blank slate. Like, they've got really good young players, but all they're asking for is a quarterback and a coach who can get them there. I feel like expectations are right, and you come in there and you'd be able to get a quarterback, you'd be good to go.
Change of division would be nice. That's the one thing there
tough.
is
You're
like
right.
sandwich between Herbert and there's just no way out there. And I said this the other day. I don't think that I've ever woken up feeling one way about a job opening and then gone to bed being like, that place looks like Jacksonville is suddenly sexy. And I hope it's not a one-game reactive thing.
He was good.
But, I mean, he was good, and you have young guys on the defensive side of the ball like Josh Allen. I don't know, no state tax. You guys mentioned that earlier on the show. Yeah. That's a key. I don't know. The Vikings are sneaky attractive because there's a possible power vacuum in the NFC North, right? Like, you don't know. I think Rodgers stays with Green Bay, but if he stays, like, how much longer? Kirk's an unrestricted free agent in a year. Do you think that's an attractive job?
Yeah, I think it is. I also think, they had the same GM for 16 years and the same coach for 8 years. That tells me that there's at least, they're not one of these franchises that pulls the rug out from you after 2 years every time. They're going to give you a shot. I think stability matters.
Yeah, and then you also have a chance to come in with your GM with so there's.
And I don't know if you've been, Chris. Have you been up there? Their new facility, it's sick. Like they put hundreds of millions of dollars into this new practice facility in Egan, which is not where they used to be in Eden Prairie, and it's top of the line. Like the Wolf family spends on football, which is nice to see.
And that bird killing stadium's pretty nice.
I mean,
it is. It's tragic to the aviary community, but it is a good stadium.
Tragic to the aviary. All right, so the big question is, do the Raiders keep Bisaccia? Are we getting caught up in the moment here?
I don't know, man. I heard a lot going into last week, like win or lose, it sounds like they're going to do a real search, but the players play for them. They really like them. And I don't know if Mark Davis wants to pay for an entirely new coaching staff with some new head coach. That's the honest truth of it. So could they get away with saying we're going to bring Bisaccia back? Of course. Do they want to do that? I don't know, man.
I also feel like it's one of those things that if you're the owner and you're making that decision, you kind of get a get out of jail free card because no player is going to be like, hey, what were you doing? And everybody's like, okay, they gave this guy a shot. They went on a run late in the year that I never would have imagined they did with the personnel changes that they had that were from very unfortunate circumstances.
Sure,
but like they actually won a shootout with the Chargers to end the season.
Without Ruggs and with Waller, barely running.
Without the guy they were paying NASA budget numbers to middle. Yeah, that's going to be interesting there. The Bears thing. Who do you think's the best fit in Chicago? And I guess this is a two-part question because I'm seeing some defensive names besides Macon Gunter. I'm seeing some defensive names. Is being a defensive coaching candidate a hot thing or a negative thing? Because for a while there, we went away from it.
I don't think it's a negative. Like I know a lot. I speak to some of these owners and some of these executives that are doing some of the hiring. And a lot of them were asking me about, all right, what do you think of Dan Quinn? What do you think of Brian Flores? And it doesn't come in do you think Dan Quinn or Brian Flores can coach an offense? It's more the first year guys that are on the defensive side. You just need to be able to do the head coaching thing from being a defensive coach. But I don't know about the Bears. Honestly, I'm not sure. You have to find a GM and a head coach. You've got Fields. I'm seeing all the names. It's all the typical names. I'm very curious to see what direction they go now. The one name, Ted Phillips, is the president, but the one name I'm hearing Bill Polian's playing a big role. Let's see how that goes. And Polian, of course, has been in football going back to Buffalo in the 90s. So I'm not sure you're getting a giant, wildly outside the box GM or head coach if Bill Polian and Ted Phillips are running the search.
So Dan Quinn, the other night I was watching Monday Night Football, and I know how this stuff goes sometimes, but these guys are for it was Saturday night with the Monday Night Football branding, which is totally weird. But I mean, these guys are going on and on about Dan Quinn. as a head coaching candidate, I'm like, okay, like we're trying to make this happen. And I think, for a guy that was a player or two away from being a Super Bowl champion, somebody I love, and Dan Quinn, sure, he's going to have opportunities, but like, I feel like it's a lot like the Mike Zimmer thing. I bet Mike Zimmer goes and gets a DC job and knocks it out of the park.
Couple years, he's going to be head coach again.
Yeah, but sometimes I'm kind of like, maybe you don't want to be doing all those things. Like,
I know.
Obviously, it sounds like Dan wants to, but
He does. And DQ, like, I'll tell you, players loved him in Atlanta,
yes.
and they went to the playoffs all those years in a row. They came up short, and then he comes to Dallas, and I was wondering, like, all right. And the players love him there too. Like, I think he's the type that, yes, can be a head coach again. But then I see like Spags, and he might kill me for saying this, but like I see Spags, can't say like Spags is a really good defensive coordinator. Like that's a nice job for the next 20 years. Vic Fangio is a great defensive coordinator. Like, I don't know if it's for everyone to go back into the head coaching gig, but for Dan Quinn and for Flores, I think those two guys.
Oh, Flo, man. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off, because I love Brian Flores.
So do I.
I played for him. I fucking love him. I think he's done a really good job making that place competent when there was not a sniff of competency in that building for a long time outside of Dan Campbell being an interim head coach. This is a place that's long suffered, and here you are beating the Patriots to finish the season. You've beaten them a couple times now.
Swept them this year.
The one thing,
last year.
The one thing is you haven't kept up with the Bills, but I also don't think they have the right guy under center. And I'm not saying that Tua is a bad player. I'm saying that, like, in the right situation, he's a guy that can make a difference. But I wonder if this whole thing stems from some Tua disagreement.
It might. I'll tell you this. He and Greer, who's the GM, they were not on great terms by the end of the season. And basically the owner, Stephen Ross, had to make a decision and went with, I'm going to go with the GM, and we're going to go figure it out from here. And Flores, I gotten to know him really well, so I'm biased. I like the guy, and he's always been really cool with me, but he's not one of those people who are texting me all day, giving me information and giving me, I don't know if he was the warm and fuzzy in that building. And I don't know if when things were hitting the fan, if he was the greatest communicator up above him.
Right.
Every player has come out and been like, this is tragic. Like, they love him there.
Yeah.
And they loved him in New England. And when Arizona interviewed him a couple of years ago, they almost hired him for the head job. Then I think this is one of those deals where there's a lot of politics and managing up in this league. And whether he wanted Deshaun Watson or whether he wanted Justin Herbert, I haven't gotten that from either side, but I'm sure that plays a role in this thing. And at the end of the day, they're going with quarterback. They're going with Tua at the moment, and they're going with how that whole thing handled after the trade deadline. And I don't think it was perfect.
But
for
who's
Brian
the
Flores.
guy who picked some, like, you're in this situation because you passed up on two generational quarterbacks. That guy keeps his job. Anyways, I'm Team B Flo, and I think he'd be a great fit in Chicago.
I think he's interviewing with Chicago, and I think he's interviewing somewhere else. I don't know if I've reported it yet, but like, he'll get interviews. But he's not going to just go to the place that offers him. I've got the feeling that this guy has now seen what it's like to be in one of these buildings, that it's not all on the same page, and I don't think he'd make that mistake twice.